the first thing is, you've run for office a few times. You're a successful politician. Do you think that past writings, is that something that you should be part of the record that you run on? One thing we've heard in this race a lot is that past writings shouldn't matter. They should. How do you feel about
a few things, and I spent a good deal of time with Bob today and had a chance to hear from him on these issues, and his view is this is a campaign about the future of Virginia. There are pressing issues to move the state forward, including the economy and jobs, and so he's focused on that. As to the writings, as he has said, Bob has said, they're 20 years old. He has disclaimed, I think, those statements, or many of those statements, and said his thinking has evolved on the thesis issue. And so it's 20 years ago, and his thinking's evolved on it. So that was his explanation. I think he's disclaimed the statements.
That was enough. And I guess, but we're here in Northern Virginia, where this is an area that hasn't been so great for Democrats statewide, in Virginia specifically. What kind of advice do you have for Republicans to come back and win areas like this?
Hasn't been good for Republicans?
Democrats, excuse me.
Hasn't been good for Republicans.
No, Republicans. Hasn't been good for Republicans, been good for Democrats.
Yeah, well, a lot of it is timing, and so now you see the pendulum noticeably swinging back towards Republicans and Republican approaches to issues, so that by itself will help. Secondly, you got to have gifted and talented candidates, and Bob McDonnell certainly is that. Third, ideas matter, and he's got actual ideas and plans that are specific, forward-leaning, and will be good for the state, including keeping a lid on taxes, trying to keep a lid on government spending. He's got an actual transportation plan with details that obviously is a huge concern to Northern Virginia. He's got education reform ideas on the table and specific, and that's critical to the strategic future in places like Virginia and Minnesota. It's not just about trying to keep taxes low and spending reasonable. It's also trying to have a skilled and productive and innovative and collaborative and inventive workforce, and that goes right to the heart of whether you've got a high-functioning education system. So he's a reform-minded person in that regard. So all of those are ingredients to success, starting with, it helps to have good timing. The timing seems to be moving in the Republicans' favor.
Well, I just have one more. Sorry. One more. The one I have is, so you've been both New Jersey and Virginia the past few days, that's right?
Yeah.
So who's at the tougher road, McDonnell or Christie?
Well, each state is different, and of course, New Jersey in the last 20 or so years has been pretty tough for Republicans. But this is increasingly a competitive state in Virginia, and both are going to be competitive races. But if the elections were held today, I think the Republicans would win both states. We just want to make sure it's that way in November.
I'll jump in here. As you know, the Massachusetts Senate race is coming up in the winter. What do you think of that race? Do you have any plans to go out there and campaign for?
I don't know who's going to run yet, and the like. So I may go out because of my RGA role campaign for the Republican candidate for governor, but I have not got a lot of information yet about the Senate race.
And former Governor Palin's op-ed today in the Wall Street Journal, she was weighing in once again on healthcare and death panels. We just have to take on that.
Sure. Well, I think the general concern is, when you have prominent proponents of the current legislation talking about needing to reduce healthcare expenditures and reduce healthcare procedures, that leads to concerns about whether there's going to be scarcity and down the road rationing. And so if you have scarcity and rationing, you could get, or your mom or dad or your grandma or your grandpa could get less healthcare. And so that sets off concerns, understandably. So those
Would you say that her framing it as death panels is the way that the Republican Party wants to frame the issue, or do you think that that's the most
regardless of what term you use, the general point and the point to be made is President Obama's plans may lead to the federal government encouraging things or doing things that could affect your healthcare choices, and the point is they should be your choices, not the federal government's choices.
And lastly, what are the rest of your plans for your time here in D.C.? Who else will you meet with?
Well, I'm leaving in about an hour to go back home, and so I'm on the plane here. It was a quick out-back trip, so I'll be back home tonight to be on Greta Van Sustrum, I think.
Terrific.
Thanks,
we'll see you